just because the way that we have evolved in software and how those integrates into our networks is completely changed the attack surface for cybersecurity.
Welcome to Unexpected Journey, the show where each week top professionals share work wisdom and life lessons about their careers and what they have learned about human experience in the workplace. I'm your host, Ann Bibb. Today we have Erin Murtha. Erin has over 20 years of experience in operations and risk mitigation. She previously worked at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, where she evaluated preparedness for nationwide emergencies and responded to inquiries from the National Security Council, Department of Justice, and Congress to improve the country's security posture. Erin holds a BA in International Policy Studies from Elmira College and an MA in International Commerce and Policy from George Mason University. She was also named one of the top 25 women leaders in cybersecurity in 2022. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments below. Now let's get started. Welcome back to Unexpected Journey, and today we are joined by Erin. Welcome, Erin.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So, Erin, you have you're in cybersecurity, and in today's world, that's kind of a really important area to be in. And I'll be completely honest, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, somebody would have said cybersecurity to me, and I'd have been like, what is that? Why is it important? Why, where, what, huh? So you're the COO of a cybersecurity company. How did you get here? How did you even get into this field?
Yes, and I will have to say 10, 15 years ago, I may have been in the same boat as you. I think
Oh, thank you.
I think there are certainly more people in that camp than you might think. And how I got into cybersecurity is actually I fell into it, if you could believe that. I was recruited by IBM when I was in graduate school, studying international commerce and policy. So nothing in the technical space whatsoever. But when IBM, says they want to have a conversation and you're graduating, you're definitely like, I'm absolutely on board with that. So I had a series of interviews with them and case interviews, and it was a pretty intense process. But at the end, they said that I was very analytically minded, which has helped me in my professional career, not so much in my personal life, and that I should be doing business intelligence. So I started at IBM in their BI department and got into technology, which is just sort of crazy in retrospect. So
you say it's helped you in your business career, but not in your personal life. How has that hits me to the core. So like what my husband and I are polar opposites. Absolutely polar opposites. I'm incredibly OCD. He sent me this video yesterday, and I almost had a panic attack. It was, and he was joking when he sent it to me. He said, "This is how I live my life." And it was somebody that had a box that they were putting little toys into. And we, as kids, we all had this, right? There was a square hole for the square. There was a round hole for the round. There was an arch for the arch. Like everything had its own space, right?
Right.
But this person that was doing the video put everything into the square hole. I seriously started hyperventilating, and he's like, "No, it totally makes sense to me. Like everything goes in the square hole." And I'm like, "Oh my God, make them do it correctly."
That resonates.
So I'm like, I was gonna say, is this what you mean?
That's exactly what I mean. It's just overthinking some things or analyzing things that don't need to be analyzed, or at least not to the extent in which you're doing it. So, in professionally, it's great because the product is, as close to perfect as you can get it. But as we know, in our personal lives, perfect does not
I'm
exist.
like, I
So.
found my tribe in Erin. That's
Yes,
great.
yes, you have.
So you were with you had this conversation with IBM. You've discovered that you were a very analytical person, and then you've moved on to.
Yes, and then I just got into tech, and I worked for Homeland Security for almost 15 years. My friend in New York, who was working for a cybersecurity company, OccamSec, said, "Hey, you should have a conversation with my CEO. We probably have a need here." And I did that. I was impressed with the company, still impressed with the company, and here I am today. So I really did just fall into it. And so I don't consider myself a cybersecurity expert by any means, but certainly having being in the industry for as long as I have, and the amount of projects that we have done successfully certainly has been interesting, and I love talking about it, and I love cybersecurity just generally, which I 10 years ago would never have thought I would be saying.
Well, I think that's interesting because we talk about how 15 years ago it wasn't. We were both of us were like, whoa, what is that? But
Mhm.
even now, it's evolving, like the whole cybersecurity thing. So I'm curious, as someone who was previously with Homeland Security and is now with a cybersecurity company, and you've seen so much. Like, how have you seen this industry evolve over the years?
I would say where we are today has been almost an about face from where we were 10, 15 years ago. And the reason for that is because software used to be developed and released on an annual basis. And that's why many organizations do penetration tests annually. Okay, it's the end of the year. Let's make sure that all of our network stuff, everything's connected okay, configured all right, like we've got everything down pat. But now, a lot of things that we're intertwined with, a lot of software that we have integrated into our networks, are being updated on a daily basis. I mean, there's software that's released with, bug fixes or enhancements or features, twice a day now. So if anything goes wrong, or if something's not configured right, or if there's not a patch there, I mean, that could really, impact your entire network. So just because the way that we have evolved in software and how those integrates into our networks is completely changed the attack surface for cybersecurity. So, and the way we develop software and the way that we configure our networks and the amount of tools that now exist, and where we store them in the cloud. So there have been a number of factors that contribute to not even being able really to recognize cybersecurity 10 years ago to where cybersecurity is today.
I kind of get tired of people talking about the pandemic and how it impacted where we are today, but I'm going to do it. Um, because I think it's really relevant to this specific industry. And I'm curious as to, what you have seen and what you think that did to the cybersecurity industry. Like, let's talk about remote work, for instance. Remote work and employee experience, we saw that specific industry, remote work, in and of itself, had a leap forward of about 5 years in technology in 12 months. And I'm curious, from your viewpoint, how was the cybersecurity industry impacted during the pandemic and since then?
It's an important question. Cybersecurity was kind of all right. You walk into your office, and now you are logging into your network, and everything stays in your office. And then with COVID and people, working from home, your network now extends from the office to check your email at the grocery store. If you're at 7-Eleven picking up milk and you get a text or you have to access an email, you're on your network. So now your network is absolutely everywhere. And you can take into consideration IoT. So you're on your network at home and you have Alexa, let's say, is up and running, and you have a bunch of your toothbrush, your refrigerator. All of these things are now plugged into your network. Now, do I think that your refrigerator stores any kind of information that you really care that anyone sees? No, probably not. But people can infiltrate your network through your refrigerator. There's that famous case study of Las Vegas casino where hackers were able to access a high roller database through a temperature gauge in the casino's fish tank. So it's a pretty big deal having to think about everything that is interconnected now. And I think also worrying is how medical devices are now being plugged into IoT. People are becoming, I think, less worried about their medical records or even their apps in which you can have you know, conversations with a therapist online through an app. I would be very concerned with all of that right now.
Yeah. I know several companies who, while they're open to and embracing remote work, which it's no secret I am a fan of, and let me rephrase that. I am more a fan of choice and of allowing people to work where they're going to be successful, whether that's remotely or in the office, as long as the proper procedures and care are taken. So that's what I am an advocate of. So whether that's hybrid, remote, in office, letting the employee have the choice and the ability to work. So that being said, those companies that are allowing that. I've worked with several that are saying if you are allowed to work at home, you cannot have an Alexa or a Google device in your home office because we do not want that device recording your work conversations.
Right, right. No, and that makes absolute sense. And I think most companies that are allowing remote working, because I do agree with you. I mean, where are you going to get the most work done? If I have lots of calls, or if I really just need to zone out and get something knocked out, I work better at home because I am not. There's nobody distracting me. There's not a conversation that I'm having. Nothing comes up. I can just kind of square myself off from the world and knock stuff out. So I do think that remote working is beneficial. I think companies are also working hard to make sure that their networks stay secure by having policies like that. The variable is people abiding by those policies. It's a lot of trust putting into employees, customers, that they are actually abiding by the rules. So it's a lot of technology and humans having to work together to make sure that they are secure.
Because it is new and there are so many things that it's constant. I think that's one of the things that just kind of is overwhelming when we're thinking about how quickly cybersecurity is moving, how quickly the Internet of Things is moving, how quickly AI is moving, right? But can you discuss maybe a notable project, cybersecurity project, or success story, right? Where Occamsec played a crucial role in protecting the client's assets or maybe even mitigating a significant security breach?
Absolutely. Occamtech is a small company. We definitely do punch above our weight, though. One of our clients is one of the top 5 organizations in the world as far as size is concerned. So, I mean, tens of thousands of employees. We had 6 weeks to breach this company, and 3 of our guys was able to do it. They were able to do that. So that is a huge success, which again speaks to the people that work at Aquamsec. Um, but that was probably the largest one, and being able to tell this company, hey, look, here are 3 use cases we were able to breach using each and every one of them, and this is what you need to do to be able to fix the issue. That was big. That was 3 people. So that was probably one of our largest successes. And then of course we do a lot of physical testing too, which is always fun. We have traversed rivers. We have gone through forests to get to a back entrance of a company and was able to break in that way. So there's been a lot of fun stuff on the other side too.
I envision in my mind that like the shows, the televisions, movies, the like where you're the good hackers, right? Like you're the
Yeah,
good people that are actually what are they called? Like the what was her name? Patricia Arquette, right? Like where she was on the show and they were actually trying to physically break in to show people where things are bad. Is that what y'all are doing? Is you're actually really breaking in to show people where the gaps in the system are?
exactly. That's exactly what we're doing. So we'll have a company come to
Oh my
us,
gosh,
maybe
can I get your autograph? I feel like I'm talking to Patricia Arquette right now.
well, and to be clear, that's certainly not me doing all the technical stuff. But yes, no, we have our ethical hackers, our security engineers. They will talk to the company. We'll have a good understanding of what they do, what does a bad day look like for them, and what kind of resources that they need to protect. Another unique thing about our team is that we understand the business context. So we will hack their system and we will say, hey, this needs to be fixed. This is how we did it. This is why we thought about doing it. But also, this is what you need to do to fix it. And this is either a critical finding that we had or not so critical. The business context comes in because we might be able to, let's say, access a file folder that they wanted protected. And anyone would say, hey, look, you wanted this protected. We were able to hack into it. This is critical. You need to fix it. But if in that file folder, it's the cafeteria lunch menu for that week, you probably don't want to get all of your resources working on other security things off what they're doing to come fix this. So that business context is applied. Hey, at some point you've got to make sure that this is okay, but also it's the lunch menu. So make sure that you're able to take your resources off this at some point, but it is not a rush.
But what's interesting is you mentioned it's not just about ethical hacking. You have some fun things also, which is about physical as well, trying to protect physical assets as well. How does that fit into the cybersecurity realm?
Well, so for example, I guess it's more of a broader security in that context. But you are able to get into people's offices. We have been able to get into people's computers in their offices while they're not there. So you can be connected and being very safe on a network. But if you didn't lock your office, or if you didn't, for example, if you did not log out of your computer when you left your desk, or lock your computer when you leave your desk, somebody can easily access that and figure out how to get into it. So they are intertwined.
Okay. I get it. I get it. And again, I go back to how many times have we seen these movies where people like even Fast and the Furious, the lady on Fast and the Furious, where she's like the ethical hacker, right? And
Yeah.
she's the one that's constantly trying to use her computer to get into a building. of some sort, or it's amazing to think that there
Oh
really
yeah,
are companies out there that do this.
absolutely. I mean, if you've ever stayed in a hotel where you're able to electronically enter your room with a key card, we've
Mhm.
hacked those. Um, there are lots of apartments that I've seen now here in New York City, where I live, where people can get into their apartments using a key code. A key code. We've hacked that. So it is interesting where we're getting to, and I wonder what it will take for those sorts of physical breaches to say maybe this is not the best way of doing this. I know in our office, in our office building, in our headquarters here in New York City, they do have electronic key cards, and we had them install an actual physical lock to get into our offices because they're just too easy to hack.
There are so many people in the world, well, in the world, at least in the United States, that are using those app-based front door locks now
Yes,
versus,
yes.
I mean,
I
are you
think
saying that
Yeah, no, that is exactly what I'm saying. I think IoT, Internet of Things, is going to become a bigger challenge, and for lots of reasons. One, I mean, now with cars, the amount of IoT that are built into cars, I think there was a carjacking, or somebody posted the other day a carjacking that happened, I believe, in China, because they just drove the car away. They were able to hack into the car and then drive it away. And the fact of the matter is, on your network, you've got all of these things connected. So maybe you've got your car, like I said, car, toothbrush, refrigerator, Alexa. You have all of this data that maybe you don't share with your refrigerator, but bad guys will be able to use that to get into your network and access everything else. And if you're working from home, you're using your network for a lot more than you probably realize.
so tying this into, so we've talked about your kind of the employee experience, but tying this over to a customer experience, how can, and I'm reaching here, right? Like really reaching. All of these IoT things, because what they've tried to do is make people's lives easier, right? We want you to be able to turn your lights off without having to get up. We want you to be able to, control, make a smart house, right? But in doing that, it seems like there is an innate risk that has been created. So, from a customer experience, how can they alleviate, or what can be done to be able to continue to have a good customer experience, make it easy for people, but reduce that risk from a cybersecurity standpoint?
It's a good question, and really, like with everything, there are pros and cons to everything. You might recall last year the White House had I think it was its first ever cybersecurity summit, and they were addressing these kinds of questions. How do we let the customer know what the associated risks are to their very convenient, you know, new clap on, clap off, and the lights come on, they come
Oh my
off. So,
God, we're dating ourselves, Erin.
God, my God. Bad example. Bad example. But how do you know what those risks are unless you're really tuned into this stuff? And who's tuned in to all the stuff? Not everybody that's buying this stuff is, and even regulators don't understand. I mean, you probably saw the Mark Zuckerberg questioning, from Congress, and their lack of understanding was just so obvious. And there really is a lack of understanding because one, cybersecurity changes on a daily basis. It seems like so you might think you get a grasp of it one day, and the next day it looks different. Um, and then also just your everyday consumers, they're buying something that like a security camera maybe, and they're not understanding fully what those risks are that are involved. So at this White House summit, they came up with a bunch of different ideas, some checks that companies should go through compliance wise to make sure that everything is secure. But there's also, and I believe it's going to be rolled out this year, there's going to be a labeling system. And that's going to provide customers information on possible security threats and what those devices that they bring into their homes, what those risks are. So it's going to be interesting. You know, the attendees at this summit were Google, the CEO of Amazon, IBM, big company tech executives that were making big, lofty decisions on what is safe and what companies need to do to ensure their customers are safe. Pros and cons again, because these are large companies with big budgets. So, what does it mean for medium sized companies and smaller sized companies that don't have the same resources or a security program where they can say, all right, these are the things I know I have to look for. And now I've got all these compliance checks I've got to do. I've got one resource. So, what do I have them do? Check off all the boxes or continue to work on this stuff where we know we have threats. So, I am going to be curious at everything that comes out of what that summit was, simply because there was no representation or very little representation of smaller to medium sized companies and what their budgets and resources actually look like.
Okay. Well, I do want to get into some leadership in cybersecurity questions, but before we do that, it's time for a little this or that so that people can get to know Erin a little bit. And I know you've
Okay.
watched the show, and I know that you. So, just a reminder for those who have not seen the show yet, I'm going to ask Erin 2 words or phrases. She's going to give me what works for her. We'll both answer and we'll talk about why. So, first question: pancakes or waffles?
Waffles, that's easy. Butter,
Waffles.
syrup, and you can use, they're malted. They're a little bit malted.
So, I also went for waffles, but mainly because I haven't had one in forever. So I'm a celiac. I am gluten free, and my husband makes me wonderful gluten free pancakes all the time. But I cannot
Oh,
tell you the last time that I had a great gluten free waffle. Actually, that's not true. I can tell you the last time I had a great gluten free waffle. I was in San Antonio, and there was this little shop. There was this little bakery that was a gluten free only restaurant and bakery. They went out of business, but I remember my mom and I having this great gluten free waffle down there. But of course, they're out of business now. This was like 10 years ago. So it's
oh
been a
wow.
while since I've had a
Wow.
good gluten free waffle. So you guys watching, if you know of a good gluten-free waffle place, I am all ears. Let me know.
And so am I. I would like to be in on that too.
Yeah,
Sounds
like
delicious.
Erin and I could go and meet up for waffles. There you go.
Yes.
Um, all right. Let's see. Morning person or night person?
I'm a night person. I'm a night person, but I would love to be a morning person. When I get up early in the morning and I get stuff done, I feel so accomplished. And when I am up late at night, I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I don't. It's always like it's a reasonable hour to go to bed, but I'll find something else to do or something to Google online. So I am definitely a night person, but would love to be a morning person.
See, this one is interesting for me because I've always been more of a night person, but as I've gotten older, I don't know why. Like, I'm naturally just starting to wake up earlier. Is this like an old person thing? I don't know. Like, my husband makes fun of me because I can't, I want to stay up. Like, I physically, my brain wants to not go to sleep, but I
Yeah.
cannot stay up anymore. Like by 10 o'clock, what is
Well,
it?
I think you were lucky. I think you were lucky that you're able to go to sleep early. I don't know.
It's not even
Maybe
able,
different.
Erin. It's narcoleptic is what it is. And then I want to sleep late because I'm tired. And
Yeah.
at like 7:15 in the morning, I'm like, why am I here? So maybe if I just go on vacation or something. I don't know. Maybe
Oh,
that would
yes.
change.
Yes.
I don't know.
I could
But I
use
used
one of
to
those
be like
myself.
the stay up all night and kind of person where like I wouldn't go to sleep until 2 or 3 in the morning. That's how I used to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what
Well,
changed.
me too. Me too. And even if I'm up really late, I somehow am also just waking up early anyway, regardless, which, oh,
And it's always like 15 minutes before my alarm goes off too,
yeah.
which then makes me mad. I'm like, I have 15 more minutes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's see here. Summer or spring?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm from South Carolina, so I do love the warm weather. But spring is nice because everything's blooming and it's not so hot and humid. So I'm gonna go with spring. I'm gonna go with spring.
I too went with spring because I am from Texas and summer is like death. So it's just I was telling somebody earlier, I said when you can walk outside and your glasses immediately fog over, it's not fun. It is not
No,
fun because you're
no,
now walking along, you're now outside, and not only are you hot and sweaty, but you can't see. So
no.
and then somebody I heard somebody telling another person the other day that you know what, it's only June, this is just the preheat, this isn't even the
Yeah,
heat.
yeah,
So
that's right.
pass on the summer now. All right, last question. Sweet or savory?
Sweet. I have a very big sweet tooth. Yes, definitely sweet. No question. Hands down.
See, this
Easy.
this is another one that I was like, I would love to put them together because sweet and savory, like kettle corn, these
Oh,
things,
it's
they
good.
go well together. But let's be honest, this face didn't get this round by just going with savory. I too have a sweet tooth, so I also went with sweet. Plus, I don't know what it is about the whole gluten free, all of the gluten free things. If you go out there and you start looking for recipes, they're all bakery stuff. Like, here's a gluten free
Uh,
cookie. Here's a gluten free cake. Here's a. Can we do a gluten free main dish that's healthy for you? Or can we do. But of course, if you find a
right,
gluten free cookie, you have to make it because it looks fantastic.
right.
So, but everybody's like trying to show you how to make all of these gluten free sweets because
Yeah,
those are the hard things to figure out how to
right,
make that are gluten free.
right,
Wonderful. That's
right.
great. I want to figure out how to make a gluten free dinner. Can we figure that out? Because I now know how to eat and make all of the gluten free sweets that you guys have shown me. So, but it sounds like we are very aligned on a lot of things, and I love that.
Yeah, yeah,
So, well, thank you for playing this or that.
yeah.
Now let's go back into the world of cybersecurity. And I'd love to talk to you a little bit about some of the challenges that you've had leading in this space and how you've overcome them. So you kind of stepped into a leadership role at OccamSec. How and you're in the COO role, right? So
Right, right.
how you're not out there going through the rivers and breaking into the buildings, and you're not doing all that, but you are leading quite an interesting team. How Talk to us about how it is leading these team of interesting and incredibly smart individuals that can basically, rule the world.
Right, yes. Well, I'll have to say the biggest challenge has been helping grow the company from becoming a medium sized company from a small company. Um, when I first started, it was 10 or 12, like, hackers kind of just doing their thing and being brilliant at it. But, obviously you're in a company, so things need to be organized and there has to be process and, you have to submit time off. So, there had to be a lot of this building of things that's not technical related. And so that has been a challenge in that you are building something from nothing. As we've gotten bigger, I've realized it's easier to take something and make it better, or realize that this thing won't scale in the future. But when you're small and you don't know what's going to work, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fail at things, and you're going to just have to be creative because you're probably also being frugal. And you're probably also, having to wear 10 different hats. And your employees are also wearing 10 different hats. So going from a small startup to a medium sized company has certainly been one of the most challenging and also most rewarding things as a leader in an organization, but in also a cybersecurity organization. And it's also learning cybersecurity and keeping up and meeting others in cybersecurity and learning their perspectives and kind of figuring out and understanding their why and their approaches to things that might be different to yours. I think learning is actually one of the key components to for anyone in being successful in their careers that I've found anyway.
So how do you do that? When you're in the midst of more than doubling the size of a company and taking a team that is so smart that they don't want to take time off and trying to put all of these policies and procedures in place, right? And doing everything that a COO does. How do you stay on top of the current trends and the challenges of the cybersecurity industry?
Well, we have a wide range of customers. So they all have very unique problems, and their approaches to their problems or their fixes to those problems, they're very wide ranging. So we, have to be on top of, okay, this is what's going on. This is a trend that we're seeing regardless of your company size. Now your approach is going to be different because you have different resources and you have different budgets. um, and we're not going to be pushing different tools. I feel like every other day there's a different tool, and this is the silver bullet. This is going to fix it, and that's just not the case. And sometimes the more tools you have, there's going to be an issue because something's not going to be configured or something's not going to be patched. So we have no other choice really, but through our project work with our customers and hearing their needs to know what the evolving threat landscape is. Um, so that's how we do it. And again, it just comes down to our people. They are brilliant. They're passionate about what they do. They all like wearing different hats and understanding different key components of the business, which is not a job requirement. Um, so it really comes down to their creativity, their reaching out, us noticing these trends, understanding these trends, conversations that we have with other people in cybersecurity, whether those are our customers or colleagues or just our business, knowing people just from business conferences and meetings and that sort of thing. Again, I have to stress learning. This is an industry where you have to have some humility. Not everybody knows everything. You have to approach things as, what can I learn from this person? And I think that's where the success is.
I would think that in this industry, if you stop learning, then you stop like growing, or at that's the point, right? That you actually become obsolete because this particular industry is ever changing. It's almost living with how much
Yeah,
it's changing.
that is exactly it. It is like a living thing. It is always changing. Um, how your organization operates might be changing. You might be downsizing. You might be hiring more. You might need different integrations within your network because you're taking a different approach in your business. There are so many different variables to how organizations need to be secure or how they secure themselves, that if you don't take a step back and listen to what your customers are trying to achieve, or what they're trying to avoid, or what they're trying to protect and how they're trying to do that, then absolutely, to your point, you'll become obsolete. Like, you really have to listen and understand, you know, what your customers need. And then on the other side of that, what's going on in, how is data moving from networks? What are the trends that are going on, and understanding it and then doing something about it.
Yeah. So, what do you think are the most significant cybersecurity threats and risks that businesses and individuals need to be aware of in the coming years?
I think IoT is a big one. I think we're really going to have to wrap our heads around that. It's interesting. I heard recently a case where a AI persona bot was, came across as being this person at a job interview, and that person persona was hired because it's all remote, so it all happened over video conferencing and that sort of thing. They were hired, and then they were able to infiltrate and attack the system because it actually wasn't a person. It wasn't a human. It was actually AI. So these are things that we haven't really thought about before. When you're interviewing somebody over a video conference, how do you know that person's a person? Is that something you considered in an interview before? These are all new things that we have to be on top of. We've got to educate, our companies, our employees on this kind of stuff happening. Again, to your point, goes back to learning. You have to know what's going on so that you can be prepared for it. So,
It is
IoT, AI,
baffling to me that any I mean, if you're talking about a video conference, like we are on video right now, if it is that good that
yeah,
somebody thought that they were talking to an actual human being face to face, it is mind blowing to me that we have come to that point.
right, right. I mean, there are even tips and tricks to identifying a non-human in a video conference, and I believe it's just, have them look left or right, and you can see if there's any pixelation around the image. Then you're right to question, the validity of the thing you're speaking with. So
It's just, I, now I have fallen victim to, and not an actual video, like talking to somebody, but I walked in, my husband was playing a video game, and I said, "What movie are you watching?" Because it was such an excellent
mm,
video that I thought that it was
yeah,
people in a movie. And he was like, "No, no, no, this is like Call of Duty or something." It wasn't Call of Duty, but I don't know. It was
yeah,
something, right?
right.
But the actual animation was so good that I thought he was watching a movie. But I haven't yet. Like, I should knock on wood because I'm not perfect. But it's just like, we're there? We're there?
we are there and beyond. There was another case where there's lots of voice impersonations going
Oh,
on.
now that I've
And
heard. Yeah.
okay, okay, right.
Yeah.
So
That
there
I've
was a
heard, like,
mother.
people. I actually just read it. Did you read this article that there's a warning out of people falling victim to kids calling them, their own children calling
Right,
them?
right, right. And that's
What?
been happening for some time, saying I'm in danger, I need help, you need to pay ransom. And of course you're a mother, and you're hearing your kid saying they're in trouble. I mean, you just immediately go to, okay, what do I need to do? Where are you? What do
I
you need? I'll do it.
I had to send that to my kids because I'm out there. Like, I'm a public figure. My voice is out there.
Right,
And I had to tell
right,
them, I'm like, you guys, this is, if somebody is calling you saying that they're me, and they're not me unless they say, "Mm." So they all know
right,
like
right.
what to ask, because
That's
unless
good.
they say
That's,
that, it's not me.
yeah, right,
Because it would not be difficult for somebody to create a voice of me being who I
no,
am.
right. No, I mean, it's good that you did that. Very smart that you acted on that, because you're absolutely right. It isn't difficult. And there are, like customer success, for example, there are lots of prompt systems. You call an 800 number, and it's like, say your name. What is your social security number? You don't have
Okay,
to
can I just say,
input the
like, I'm going to
digits.
be mad at
Say
you
it.
all day long right now that you just said say your name, because I'm going to have Beyonce in my head all day now. Say my name, say my. Sorry. Sydney, do not
Well,
put
now
that
it's in
in.
my name.
You know she's going to put that in just to spite me now.
It's going to be the highlight.
But no, it's wild to me that we are not only there from a whole capability standpoint, but that there are people that do it. Like,
It's crazy. I know.
why? I mean,
I know.
why are we scamming people like this? It's just, it blows my mind.
Yes.
So, so we've talked about the evolving landscape, and one of the things that I have not called out that I do want to make sure everybody knows is that you were actually recognized as one of the top 25 women leaders
Oh,
in cybersecurity. Um, so, first off, congratulations. That is not a small
thank you.
thing.
Thank
Um,
you.
what do you think are the key qualities and skills that are really necessary to be successful in this industry?
Certainly curiosity. And maybe that ties in a little bit to what we were chatting about earlier in learning. You have to be very curious about, what did you find? How did you find that? What does that mean? Being very involved, and I don't think I can say more than just constantly learn and know what's out there and have conversations with other people who may have tried something a different way, and why did they do that. I think those are key traits in leadership. That, and also making sure that you're not leading with ego. You're making difficult decisions probably, and they're not easy decisions, and those are usually the hardest ones, but they're right, and they're right for the organization. And it's just that laser focus that we talked about before, that you just have to stay on that path. I don't think it matters so much where you are in the boat, so long as your focus is to get across the lake. Wherever you need to help, that's where you go. I think if we're not leading by ego, and we're recognizing that our team is just, you know, brilliant, creative, motivated, and doing 10 different things when you're a smaller company. I think if you recognize that in your team, and you're all on the same page, that you're gonna be successful, I think.
So, last question, Erin. Why would somebody reach out to you, and how would they reach out to you?
Well, my email, I think you have. They're welcome to
Well, yep,
reach out
we'll put it up
anytime.
on the screen right there.
Perfect. And I'm on LinkedIn, so absolutely reach out anytime. I'm always happy to chat. Um, if you want advice about where you are in your career or in your studies, I'm more than happy to chat about that. What next steps might look like. I've talked to several students actually over the course of a couple of years where they are interested in, they're passionate about cyber and they really want to try it out, but they are not at the point yet where they would be coming on even as a junior level. And we've created internships for those people, and they've been very successful and they've learned a lot and they contributed a lot to our company as well. So there's no level or there's no particular job title needed. Just reach out with any questions, or if you just want to chat cyber, I'm always up for a chat.
Want to chat cyber? I love that. Well, Erin, thank you so much for joining the show today. It's been great chatting with you. It's always great catching up with you. And it's, I'm sure we will be on the show again probably in the next few months. So I look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's always fun to chat with you.
And everybody else, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you again next week. As we wrap up the episode, we would like to take this time to thank you for joining us this week on Unexpected Journey. Our guest information will be linked in the episode description, along with a link to our host website, annbib.com, and our sponsors' websites, remoteevolution.com, ethossupport.com, and yourcohort.co. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on your favorite podcast app and on our YouTube channel so that you never miss an episode and we can continue to bring them to you. Let us know your thoughts on what we discussed in the comment section. And once again, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again next time on Unexpected Journey.